Let's go over how to add color today to our nutcrackers. We're going to use a combination of some different materials. We'll be using crayons for our nutcracker's skin tone. You can choose the color that works best for your nutcracker. And then we'll be using some regular markers to color in the rest of our nutcracker. And then we'll also have some glitter markers and metallic markers to add details on top of our nutcracker that is already colored in with a regular marker. So you should use the metallic markers and the glitter markers after you have colored in your nutcracker. So first, choose a color for your nutcracker's skin tone. I'm using this tan shade here, and I'm going to color in around the nutcracker's face, but I'm not coloring over the mustache or the teeth. I want to leave those areas for a different color. You should also color in the hand the same color as the face, because that is also the nutcracker's skin, so it should be the same color as the face. Once you finish the skin tone, then you're done with crayons. Then the next step is using markers to color in the rest of our nutcracker. When you're coloring your nutcracker, try to use your very neatest coloring skills. Notice how I am outlining the shape of my nutcracker's arm here with the color that I want it to be. And then I can fill it in using lines of color with my marker. This creates a neater look with your coloring instead of going back and forth, which can look a little scribbly. Now I have a very neatly colored in shape here. So I'm going to go ahead and add color to my entire nutcracker using regular markers. When you're coloring, if you find markers that don't work and look really dry like this one, do not use it on your nutcracker. We want to have very vibrant and bright colors for our nutcracker. Just look for another marker that works better. Also, when you're coloring in, make sure that you color in the entire shape. Like this blob of paint should be filled in all the way without any little white spots left. Now that my nutcracker is all colored in with regular markers, I can move on to using the glitter markers and the metallic markers. You can use a combination of them or just one kind. It's up to you because you are the artist. With the glitter markers, you need to shake them a little bit and you hear a little bead inside that is moving the ink down to the end of the marker. Before you use them, you might want to test them on a piece of scratch paper. If not enough ink is coming out, just shake it a little bit more and press down a little bit gently on the tip of the marker. With the metallic markers, they work pretty much like a regular marker, but again, just be careful with the tip of the marker. We don't want to press down too hard. Just use it gently. When we're using these, we're just going to be using them for details. So I'm going to add some of the glitter marker around the edges of my nutcracker's jacket. Think about where the details might be. We're not going to use these to color in a big area of our nutcracker. We're just going to use them for small details that are on top of our colored marker. Now, one thing you want to be careful about here is making sure that the colored marker area is dry. That's why we're doing that part first, and then we're putting the glitter or metallic marker on top. I worked on the red jacket and I moved down to the bottom of my nutcracker, so I know that the red jacket area is dry. You can feel it with your hand and make sure that it doesn't feel damp. If the marker area is wet, it's a lot harder to color on top of it, and you could easily rip your paper. So just make sure that the colored marker is dry, and then you can put the glitter or metallic marker on top for details. And sometimes with the glitter marker, you have to go a little bit back and forth with it. It's kind of like a paint pen. It doesn't draw as smoothly as a traditional marker. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few more metallic and glitter details to my nutcracker. Once you've finished coloring in your Nutcracker and using the metallic and glitter markers, the next step is cutting out the Nutcracker and then choosing a background to glue your Nutcracker onto. I chose green, but you can choose the color that you like. So when you're cutting out your Nutcracker, carefully cut around its shape. But notice how I'm leaving a little bit of the white paper, kind of like a little bubble around the edge of my Nutcracker. That way I don't cut off any important details of my Nutcracker. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out a little bubble shape around the edges of my Nutcracker. Once you're done cutting, make sure to throw away any extra paper scraps, and then make sure to write your name on the back of your background paper. I'm using a white colored pencil because it shows up better on the green paper than a regular pencil. Don't forget to write your room number and the letter of your art group. Then we can go ahead and glue our Nutcracker down to our background paper. We're going to use a glue stick for this step. When you do this, make sure you get all of the edges of your Nutcracker. We don't want any parts of it coming up or falling off later. And then just try to center your Nutcracker on the background paper. Make sure that you have a little bit of space at the top and at the bottom, and even spaces on the sides. Once you like where it is, you can press it down in place. Another trick is you can turn it over and rub the back of your paper to make sure that it stays down. You can also give your paper a little shake and make sure that nothing is coming up. It looks like mine is pretty good. With the metallic markers, I'm going to add a little border around the edges of my background paper. I'm just doing a pattern of a wavy line and then a dashed line, but you could use any kind of line or shape to make a border. You could do circles, triangles, zigzag lines, hearts, whatever you like best. This will just give my Nutcracker's background an extra detail and it will make it look complete. So I'm all done with my border that goes all the way around the edges of my Nutcracker. I used a wavy line and a straight line, and then I also decided to put a little dot with the glitter marker in the middle. But remember, you can come up with your own border design using different shapes and lines of your choice. I hope you had fun designing your own Nutcracker in this project. I can't wait to see how yours turns out.